For the longest time, political analysts like Bill Clinton strategist James Carville have said, it's the economy, stupid. If you can just get the economy humming, everything else will fall into place. Well, Biden's first year may have been riddled with challenges and some failures, but could today's blockbuster GDP numbers be one of the keys to turning things around? According to the Commerce Department, the economy grew at 5.7% last year. That's the fastest annual pace since 1984 when Ronald Reagan was the president. And it's a huge rebound from 2020 when the economy actually shrank by 3.4%, the biggest drop in 74 years. The president celebrated the robust growth with this statement. For the first time in 20 years, our economy grew faster than China's. This is no accident. Today, Americans are finding better jobs with better pay and better benefits. Layoffs are near record lows. Trump promised 4% or higher economic growth during his presidency, but in fact, the highest Trump ever grew the economy was 2.9% in 2018. The economy never grew annually or even quarterly by 4%, despite what Trump was saying. Biden not only surpassed 4%, he got the best numbers of any president in nearly 4 decades. Biden has been struggling to get voters' approval, but could this help to change that? Joining me now to discuss is former political director for Priorities USA, Kristal Knight, and the dean of the College of Ethnic Studies at California State University at Los Angeles, Dr. Julianne Malveaux. I almost screwed up your title there, Julianne. So anyway, let me start with you.
Economic studies what do you too, make so that's okay.
I was about to say, like, you could totally do that. I think you could do the whole university. What do you make of such strong growth from this first year of the Biden presidency?
It's good news for President Biden, and I wish that his administration would tout the news better. It's buried in the weeds of a press release they put out. It should be the headline. There should be a graph. Instead, it's sort of, well, things are going okay. No, things are going very well for most people. The problem, so the growth number, as you said, since 1984, that is fantastic. On the other hand, we have not seen, if you adjust growth for inflation, it's not quite as optimistic, the 5.7% as people are measuring. When we look at inflation and contrast it with the growth, we're looking at a lower number, probably something closer to 3.5. I haven't done the calculation myself yet, but it is a bit lower. And that's why you're seeing some pushback from people when you do these polls and people say, I'm not doing well, I'm not doing well. Well, the other reason they say that is because they watch too much Fox News. Because Fox News has been basically kicking the president in his hind parts since he became the president, and too many people watch that mess. The unemployment numbers, Charles, are very good. We've talked about those before. But again, recovery has been uneven. If you're at the top of the totem pole, you're doing well. If you're at the bottom or even in the middle, you might not be. And that's kind of one of the challenges here. But I think the president should be touting these numbers, should be talking about the fact that this week we have fewer jobless claims than we've had in a very long time. That, basically, although we still are grappling with COVID and Omicron, we also are seeing people are determined not to close up. So people are doing things like, okay, you got to wear a mask, you got to be vaccinated, but people are very reluctant to close things down. I think it's good news for Biden.
So, Kristal, help us to explain why this growth is so strong. Is it just because the baseline was so low and it's on rebound from going down so far? It's different than saying that you were already on a growth trajectory and you bumped up another 5.7%. So is it just rebound, and that's why some of what Julianne was describing, that people don't feel it as overwhelming growth, but rather a returning to a normal? Is that what's happening, or is there something else?
Well, that's a great question. And I think Dr. Malveaux really laid out what, the larger point is. But I think some of it is folks are unreporting their new jobs. People have left jobs. So we talk about this expansive growth that's happened over the last year. And we also hear terms like the great resignation. People are resigning from traditional day-to-day jobs, but also there's a big underclass of people who have started entrepreneurship. They've created new economies for themselves, for their families, And maybe those are the numbers that are not showing up in the polls. That's what we're not seeing. And so it's hard to measure that growth when it's underreported. But what we're also seeing, as you stated, is the economy is actually resetting. There was a big, drop in employment. We saw high unemployment claims in 2020, but in 2021, people figured out like we might actually be in this pandemic for a little bit of time. So what can I do to self-sustain myself? What can I do? How can I adjust my finances and make sure that things that were normal pre-pandemic get back to normal now? And that's what we're seeing with this expansive growth across the country. And I agree with Dr. Malveaux. The Biden administration should be touting this. They should be, sharing this with the American public. This should be a talking point so that the narrative that the economy is doing bad, the narrative about inflation being very high, should also be juxtaposed with how this economy has rebounded and has had historic and expansive growth.
Julianne, let's stay on this idea of how people are experiencing this, which is different from what the data are showing us, right? And so you still have now people being evicted because the eviction moratorium has expired. You have people still suffering on a student loan debt, and they were expecting the president to, in some way, follow his own advice, his promise, and to reduce that or get rid of some of that student loan debt. You have inflation, which is raging. And at the same time, there are no more stimulus checks or kind of pandemic checks going out. And people, and I think some people who have it well off don't register how big of a deal those stimulus payments were for people in their everyday lives, and how big of a deal the child tax credit, which just expired as well, was for everyday people and, kind of making the ends meet. How does all of this fit together when they look at, the stock market's doing okay, and some weeks it's doing great. GDP seems to be through the roof, but they don't feel it.
Well, Charles, first of all, half of all Americans are not in the stock market. We may have gone up to just maybe 52 or 53%, but most of us are not in the stock market. And if we are, many are just in it indirectly, like their 401k. So they're not investing in the stuff that's blowing up. So when people who use the stock market as an economic indicator are exhibiting their class bias when they do that, because everybody does not have stock. I think the second thing that we have to look at is I think Kristal made a really great point about people with businesses and the great resignation. In some ways, people have had enough. People are just sick of this nonsense. They don't like this labor market. Wages have ticked up. Ticked up while profits, corporate profits have skyrocketed. So we really do have a great class divide. It's very telling. A professor at Wharton asked her students what they thought the average income in these United States were. And they were coming up with six-figure averages. One young man said $800,000 average income. All that means is that your daddy rich. That's really all that means. But the average income overall, median income for a family of four is $67,000 overall, and about $45,000 for Black folks. So let's translate that into the child tax credit. The child tax credit was $250 to $300 per month. So if you had two kids, that's $600. If you were making $45,000, which means basic about $3,800 per month, that is about a $6,000. It's a significant increase, about a 20% increase in your income. Now take it away. And so these are people who are saying, wait a minute, I just don't see how this whatever this GDP is doing, it's not doing it for me. Policymakers are more like those Wharton students than like folks who, policy people, I think I would guess, like Kristal, who are looking at people in the middle and at the bottom. So these policymakers are responding to the mansions of the world saying, oh, there's too much money out there. Well, tell someone who's just been evicted that there's too much money out there. Tell somebody who doesn't have a job and doesn't have the creativity that there's too much money out there. So you really do have two Americas, and that's the lens that our journalists look at, are these polls, et cetera. Need to talk to the people who don't get captured in the polls. Need to talk to some of the people who are at the middle, at the bottom. And when you do that, I think far more realistic picture. I'm not denying that the economy is doing well at the macro level. The question is the micro level.
Right. Kristal, let's stay on this idea that Julianne just brought up about specifically focusing in on black people in the country. She was pointing out that, only half of people are in the stock market, but only a third of black people are in the stock market. It's even lower than that. Mm-hmm. Our wealth is lower. So we feel consumer prices more astutely for the money that we have than other people might, because they may be invested, they may be buying bigger items like homes and what have you. Black people suffer more from student loan debt than other people on average. How does Biden take this message of a strong economy and convince the black voters that it is benefiting them as well?
Yeah, that's a great question, Charles. And I think what the president has to do is to show the tangible indicators that have helped Black Americans. And so we've been talking about the child tax credits. That's something that absolutely people should be able to draw a line from. This is a policy that was implemented. It went directly into my pocketbook because people vote with their pocketbooks. And these are issues that you can immediately feel and see. The other thing is Build Back Better. Even though it hasn't passed, there are certain provisions in this bill that will absolutely help Black Americans and Americans at large. And I'm talking about things like buying a hearing aid over the counter. I'm talking about buying insulin or the reduction in the cost of insulin. I'm talking about, different types of medication, different things that, folks will be looking to that will absolutely make a difference, meaning an overnight difference in the way that they spend money and the money that they have in their pockets. The other thing, too, that we're seeing the government begin to take a different lens on is crypto, right? Like it's kind of been this scary thing that people have been shying away from because it's unregulated. But what we've seen are a lot of Black Americans getting into the crypto space because this is an opportunity for them to gain wealth or create wealth at a level playing field, unlike what banking in this country has traditionally done, which is to limit the amount of money that Black borrowers have been able to spend or to get from traditional banks.
So, well, Kristal Knight, you're going to have to come back on another night and explain crypto to me, because I also don't understand it, but that's for another show. Dr. Julianne Malveaux and Kristal Knight, thank you. Right? I need to Google, whatever. Thank you both for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it.